I do have a bit of an origin story. It wasn't just, hey, let me, here's a bunch of Amazon sellers who need help. Let me get started. I was in law school. Gosh, I graduated 17 years ago from Villanova University over in suburban Philadelphia. I was just looking for ways to make money, right? I didn't want a big pile of student debt, right? So I'm like looking for ways to make money, and I'm like looking. And it all started around like a Black Friday. I'm like, these people like line up. Young people listening probably didn't know this is a thing, but people would line up all night at Best Buy. There's this store called Circuit City, which was actually crucial to my first jaunt into retail arbitrage, which, by the way, was not called retail arbitrage when I started it in 2003 or 2 or whatever. It was just, people would call me a scammer. I don't know why I was scamming. I'm lawfully buying and selling product. I don't really get the scam. It's just like, but it had no name. It didn't have that, what it was, just didn't exist. And I started in DVDs. So I was flipping like seasons of DVDs so I was thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll stand in line and like get those TVs. But then I'm like, well, how do I deliver it? Am I going to be doing like shady Craigslist transaction? How am I going to deliver a flat screen TV to somebody? And is it really money in there? And then I'm looking at DVDs like The Simpsons, like this is the box sets, right? When they start putting out seasons, right? And I'm like, holy smoke, they discount those to like $15. They're normally like 40 or 40. They're more like 50 or $60 for the whole season. And, it could be 10 seasons of these things. But for one day, one weekend, right? While everyone's standing in line trying to get that TV at 5 a.m, I'm just standing in there trying to get every copy of Simpsons or Family Guy that I can get my hands on. And that's how it kind of started. I just realized I can make money flipping stuff on the internet through not even Amazon, because in 2003, there was no Amazon, right? That was books, right? But there was half.com, which was sort of eBay's foray into Amazon. Yep. Which made it easier to do business on eBay because it was like a single ASIN as opposed to similar to the way Amazon is now, as opposed to having to do it was just eBay back then was awful. And I'll tell you my funny story is the couple funny things about that. The lines I used to cause at the Philadelphia post office. There's a post office in Center City, Philadelphia. Don't even get me started on the Conshohocken post office, but I would go work at the courthouse, the bankruptcy court. And sometimes I'd have like 100 DVDs to media mail. It was all manual. You didn't just throw your stuff in the mailbox. You had to get it manually weighed and scanned, and you had to get a receipt for media mail. And I would come in and I would cause a line, and all these poor people were trying to get their Christmas packages mailed at lunch. And it was just like me taking up sometimes they only had one person on duty, and it was just me. And I'd be sitting on the floor of the Philadelphia post office right there. It's like 8th and Market across from the old courthouse I worked in. Right behind it. And I just caused this line around the corner, and they hated me. They just hated me. And I would sit there on the floor reading my law books, just prepping for finals, because I wanted to get, make most of my money, obviously, right up through finals. And then I wanted to take some time off. So I didn't want to be doing this all the way through Christmas. Like I had windows. Right. And that's when I started. And then from there, I expanded into reselling other things, discovering the Walmart clearance rack. There's another funny one you'll appreciate. Circuit City. Do you remember Circuit City?
Yes, I do.
Circuit City used to promise was that if you found it cheaper anywhere else,
yes, they
gave they would price match. But they wouldn't just price match. They actually gave you 10% of the difference. So if you bought something for $20 at Circuit City and you found it for $10 at Best Buy, not only would they give you a $10, to cover the difference as a price match, they'd give you an extra buck. Right, an extra 10% of the difference, right? Right. Well, what I would do strategically is I would arbitrage. I would look at the circulars, and I did this on Black Friday, and I get away with this. So, like, let's say I buy like The Simpsons at Best Buy at Circuit City. There'd be certain seasons, like season 2 for whatever reason would be $15, but season 7 would be $60. So let's say I buy season 7 for $60. At Circuit City, but I knew it was on sale for $12.99 at Best Buy. I would do that on purpose, and I would do that like hundreds of times. Okay, so my receipt was this long, and I would pay full price, right? Walk out the store, and just like in the commercial when the little kid goes, "Yesterday I bought this, and today I saw this," and that's literally the commercial. Do you remember this?
Yes.
They just trade you the Walkman. I did the same way. I would literally just be a smirk on my face, like, "Yesterday I bought all of this." And today I saw this, and it was the Best Buy circular, and they would sit there and they would refund me like 48. So like now I'm getting these 12. They're already $12.99 at Best Buy. Now I'm getting them for like $10. So I may have put Circuit City out of business. I'm not sure. They're not around anymore.
Right.
But it worked. It was it was a hustle. I mean, so I appreciate and respect the hustle of our clients because I was there.
Were you doing this with other sellers?
There were no, this was all like, I just figured this out on my own, and I just didn't want student debt.
There weren't any Facebook groups.
There was no Facebook. There was no Facebook when I started. It just started, and they weren't opening up to Villanova. They were at Harvard and Yale, and they weren't opening up to it was, no, it was just, I had this eager desire. Like, there's got to be a way to make money. Like the last thing I want to do is like work in a job while I'm in law school. Because like, what are you going to make? You know?
Right.
10, 15 bucks an hour waiting tables if you get tips. If you're lucky. Back then, probably not even, right? Probably $8 an hour. There was no point in that. I wanted to make real money. But the thing was, when I graduated, there was no FBA. So for those of you who don't realize, like for the majority of people, what changed Amazon, the tipping point, what made Amazon better than eBay, I mean, a lot of things did, but fulfillment by Amazon, the e-commerce railroad, that suddenly, this is when, for my clients and their origin stories, right? They said, then I was invited into, the story went like this. I was doing like 100,000 in sales on Amazon. I'm like, okay, this is all pretty cool. I'm making like an extra 10 or 15 grand a year. It's like, it's cool. It's like, it's my side thing. And then they invited me into this program called FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, around 2011 or 2010 or everyone has their own version of the story. And that's when I went from being, a $100,000 seller to $1 million seller to a $2 million seller. And that's the story. So really without Fulfillment by Amazon. And so I was a little early to the party, and I'm like, well, this is not going to replace me being a lawyer full time, but it sure is fun. And I kept doing it still as a side hustle. Like, I tried at least to get the Black Fridays in. I do video games. To this day, you cannot take me to a Walmart without me walking through the clearance aisle on the phone and scanning my phone. I still look, and I still have a basement full of stuff that I haven't resold. I was doing, I had a side hustle of reselling when I was working for General Electric. I used to work for some really big companies like Microsoft, and Walmart. I actually worked for Walmart in Arkansas and General Electric, and I'd side hustle so I have a base. But then this whole Amazon thing started for me, and I never had time to sell through it. But what's funny is a lot of the inventory I didn't sell ended up going up in value because a lot of it was like toys. I had like Swarovski mugs from Starbucks. They don't make anymore. Wrestling toys that I bought for $5, they're now worth like 300, 400. I mean, I have a basement. It's a bit of it drives my wife crazy, but I have a basement.